have a listen to Michelle Bullock, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, just talking about why inflation expectations can't become entrenched, why monetary policy, what role that it has to bring back down inflation. Just have a listen.
Prior to the pandemic, we were living in a world of increasingly open trade. There was arguably a big deflationary impulse coming from China and Asia. In a world of fragmentation and conflicts and so on, we're going to see more potential for supply shocks. And although you want to look through supply shocks, if you keep getting them, there comes a point where everyone just expects inflation to remain high. And if inflation expectations adjust, then that's a problem.
This supply shocks issue was something she actually talked about quite a bit, and she sort of alluded to it there in that grab, but she sort of went on to say all central banks around the world try and look through supply shocks. When they look at inflation, they say, okay, this is due to higher oil prices, so we're just going to assume in our financial modelling that's eventually going to go down. But the point she tried to make this morning was there are more and more supply shocks hitting our economy, and it's becoming entrenched in central banks' modelling and resulting in inflation staying higher for longer than anticipated. So remember, the RBA is expecting inflation to get down to their 2 to 3% range by the end of 2025. So we're still a fair way off that, but hopefully supply shock problems can fall, and that will give us more regularity to our economy and a monetary policy.
Yeah, okay, so in other words, core inflation is still the focus, but we know that's been pretty stubborn as well, Ed. Meanwhile, the ASIC Forum kicked off this morning. Some opening remarks from the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers. He says Australia's economy is in a better position than its global peers. Interesting comments, because this is something the opposition's sort of trying to push at the moment, in particular around the US and UK, which it looks like they've got a better hold, at least on inflation, than us right now.
Yeah, well, Jim Chalmers said he just got back from the APEC summit over in San Francisco, met a lot of his fellow peers that run basically the financial departments of all the big governments around the world. And yet, you're right, Tom, you look at America's economy, their cash rate is higher at 5.5%, but unemployment in the US is pretty much similar to Australia, and economic growth in America is actually going a lot better than anyone anticipated, particularly the US Federal Reserve and the policymakers over there. So Jim Chalmers today did talk up our economy. There's a couple of things he highlighted, really, how our unemployment rate is very low and productivity is very low. That's an issue that he flagged. But producer prices, agricultural prices have been pretty good, and commodity prices have held up better than anticipated, especially with China's economy having some troubles. Iron ore prices and coal prices have been reasonably strong. So just take a listen to the Treasurer talking up our economy compared to other ones around the world.
Among all of the countries that we compare ourselves with, we are in a better position than most, if not all, of those countries. Obviously, growth is slowing in our economy. Confidence at a consumer level is relatively low, but we have a very resilient labour market. Business investment has been really quite remarkably strong. And we have other advantages as well, particularly when it comes to what we sell the world, the prices that we're getting, and a range of other benefits as well.
And another theme that has emerged, been talked about quite a bit today, has been the productivity challenge facing Australia. And we did also hear from Danielle Wood, the newly appointed Productivity Commissioner, who talked about some of the issues that the Productivity Commission is having with trying to get productivity back on track, because it has been declining roughly for the last 2 decades, Tom.